During my recent practicum, I was able to reflect on a number of scenarios, events, and interactions that informed my practice as an emerging teacher. It was a great experience, and from it, one particular classroom discussion stood out to me. This class was quite lively, and collectively were willing to participate in classroom discussions and activities. The particular event I wish to reflect on involved Year 11 Religion and Ethics students watching a passionate speech given by Aboriginal journalist Stan Grant, and that highlighted the racial discrimination of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people both in the past and present. It resulted in a class discussion that left many of the students contemplating issues regarding Indigenous Australians, and it took on a life of its own, and they started to explore a number of topics such as land rights, Indigenous youth incarceration, and the Australian versus Indigenous flag debate. The activity as a whole allowed me to demonstrate a range of teaching strategies as outlined by AITSL Standard 3.3. ICT is utilised across the school to effectively communicate learning, intentions, resources, and activities to a class using a program called OneNote. In this scenario, OneNote was used to communicate the lessons learning outcome and the resources used, including the video source from YouTube, and that allows students to process, analyse and evaluate the information being supplied as outlined by AITSL Standard 3.4. As a pre-service teacher, I was able to use these resources to demonstrate AITSL Standard 2.6, which engages the use of information and communication technology. As digital natives, students were able to interact and research class materials using ICT as an effective tool that engages students in the activities and across multiple resources that pertain to their world both in and outside the classroom. By this stage, I was approximately midway through my placement and had already begun to build a rapport with the class. I thought it was important during each class to remind them that it was a safe place to voice their opinions and thoughts, and inform the class that there was an expectation of empathy and mutual respect to be given to all parties so that they could discuss their opinions. And I was able to share some of my own background, heritage, and experiences of marginalisation, supporting my relationship with the class. As McGrath and Van Bergen highlight, empathetic student-teacher relationships are a powerful tool within education regarding student outcomes, participation, and minimising disruptive behaviours and peer rejection. So by getting to know my students, that allowed me to support participation and that aligned with AITSL Standards 1 and 4.1. In this scenario, I asked the class to think and respond in their answers what did they already know about the topic, and to think intrinsically as to why they felt a certain way regarding an issue. So one student in particular was very passionate about Indigenous issues and related to many of the ethical topics due to our own Aboriginal heritage. The student's engagement with the material and willingness to participate in the discussion assured me the student felt safe in the classroom environment and to share her narrative with the rest of the class. Throughout the class discussion, I was able to informally assess by moving about the room and asking direct and guided questions of individual students and this group as a whole, the students' knowledge and learning on the topic of Indigenous history and culture, which is cross-curriculum priority, and is also outlined by AITSL Standard 5.1. So through a number of ways such as storytelling, non-linear ways of thinking and community links, I was able to incorporate the Aboriginal 8 ways of learning pedagogy into my practice, and that benefited the learning needs of many in the class. Furthermore, it allowed me to demonstrate my understanding and respect for Indigenous people's history and strategies for teaching Indigenous students, which is outlined by AITSL's Standards 1.4 and 2.4 respectively. Overall, I felt the activity was a success, and it was commented by my supervising teacher that I made effective use of technology and classroom management to support and encourage student engagement. However, to encourage more participation and promote classroom management in the future, I'll endeavour to call on some of the quieter students who are less frequent to volunteer in discussions, and in the future, when conducting a similar activity, I would endeavour to explore issues that are more personable to a greater audience. So looking forward, I believe as my confidence grows, so will my behaviour and classroom management, and I shall continue to expand my bank of resources for topics such as these.